full time, and I remember crying on the way home. I was still able to sort of just about cycle home, and I remember it was raining, and I was like, I'll just have a little cry on the way home, because I thought I'm never going to be able to do this again. I remember him saying to me, he said, the quicker you can come to terms with the fact that you've got MND, the quicker or the easier it will become. And it's true.
Acceptance.
Accepting the fact that I have this disease that at the moment has no treatment, opened doors and opportunities that I've never would have dreamt of being able to do if I didn't do it. And I thrive on that. I think the salesman in me is constantly chasing. They have been feeding me a chip in the pub because I couldn't feed myself, and he was going, "Here comes the train." He was like, seducing me with a chip.
James, first of all, I think when we look back to sort of, especially for me, my injury, my history, and I think you'd agree on this, I think my mindset and who I am today is totally different to who I was before my accident. And I think diagnosis-wise, you probably think the same. So we're going to get into that a bit later. But let's strip it all back, go right from the start. What was life like for you? How did you grow up? What were you interested in? I know there's a bit of cars, a bit of running, all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, well, thanks for having me on your podcast. Really appreciate it. Life for me was, I was your average local boy in Bournemouth. I went to school locally, had a good group of friends. I was into my bikes. We did like trials riding back in the day, where you hop around on your back wheel and, try to not break anything. And after school, I went sort of straight into sort of sales environment. It was sort of a natural sort of job that I found myself going into, and ended up sort of progressing into the motor trade for the sort of predominantly in my working career, I suppose. And spent most of my life selling cars. I don't want to say a dodgy car salesman, but I always had this sort of itch that I wanted to scratch in my career, which I can go into a bit more detail later, but I always wanted to be a barber. And I always had something in the back of my mind that I wanted to do that. But growing up, I was, family holidays to Cornwall, just average, normal, things, and I never would have imagined life to be what it is now, looking back at it almost, let's say, 30 years ago, to sort of know that I'm now in the situation I am in.
It's amazing, that sort of aspect of looking back. I think, like, for me, I just can't imagine what I was like before my accident. A lot of people say I'm a very different person now to what I was like before, and do you think
that's interesting? I think I'm still the same person at heart, but I find myself mentally changing because I'm slowly having things taken away from me that I'm no longer able to do, which then can change your personality. But I still find myself, like, I met up with some friends this week down the local pub, although I'm not drinking at the moment. We've met up to sort of have a catch up, and there's the jokey side of me that still comes out, the sarcastic, quick-witted. So I don't think those things have necessarily changed over time, but I definitely know what you mean about, I sometimes step back out of myself and look from afar, if that makes sense. It's a weird scenario where I'm sort of looking at myself as another person in the mind that I did, or the mindset that I did have. It's hard to explain, but in a nutshell, no, I don't think I have changed dramatically, but I know what you mean. It does chip away at you.
Yeah, I think it's the opposite, isn't it? I suppose for you, you're going through it still and are going to carry on to, whereas for me, it's a bit different. But let's go back to sort of that time. So obviously you found your partner, get married, I presume?
We did, yeah. I would say you'd call us childhood sweethearts.
Yes.
I met my now wife when I was 18.
Ooh.
And we were friends first, and then it sort of blossomed into something else, and never looked back. We moved out together, we lived together for I think about 6 or 7 years before I decided, let's pop the question and then get married. I've got a bit of a story of life around that time, where we decided to move and live in Southern Ireland.
Oh right.
So I've lived in an area called Limerick in Southern Ireland for it was almost 3 years. Let's call it 2.5 years, and we lived there for a while, and then we come back to get married, and ended up being able to buy a house. We saved and saved and saved, managed to get on the property ladder, and I remember the day when we found the house we wanted to buy. It was like looking on Rightmove and going, this is our budget, this is how much we can get on a mortgage, what's out there? And there was one house.
Oh really?
And we were like, oh, it must be that one, we've got to have that one. And like, I don't know how long I've been there now, 16 years maybe, 17 years later,
so
we're still here. We
we
were going, do you know what, we'll just do this as a little stopgap and we'll work our way up. And then so many years later we're still here. So
nice. And then kids, I guess eventually?
Yeah, we had kids. It was a long process because we sort of spent almost 6 years after we got married to try and have children, and we ended up having to go through IVF, and that unfortunately didn't work the first round, but a miracle happened and one come along, and then 2 come along after that, and now I don't go near her because I don't want any more.
Yeah, God, yeah. And so it's quite a standard life, I suppose.
Yeah.
What you call standard life?
I'd say so, yeah.
I mean, everyone obviously, the whole journey and stuff has put you into a position where you have to appreciate everything in life. But if you look back, I suppose it is just like you met your partner, you had a family, you car sales, that sort of thing.
Yeah. If I look back at our parents, I've done everything that you would normally do.
Yeah.
You'd find a girlfriend, marry her, have children, buy a house, have children, job done.
Absolutely.
And that's where I am.
And then the story started to change.
The story did change, yeah.
Was it a day on a bike, I believe, when it started? Or was it a bit before?
I was cycling to and from work around that time, but I was sort of quite heavily into running.
Okay.
And ironically, I used to sort of raise money for a charity called the Neurone Disease Association, because my nan unfortunately had motor neuron disease, and she passed away quite quickly after her first sort of symptom. Didn't even think to myself that it would be something I would be living with now, but I got heavily into running, and I remember one night after doing running events, raising money for charity, getting quicker and quicker, I worked my way up to half marathons, and I remember one night I come back from working in, I think I was in Volkswagen at the time, and I remember looking at my left arm, and it started twitching like an eye twitch, like when you're tired, and it just wouldn't stop. And I said to my wife, what's that? Like, what's that about? And she was like, I don't know, maybe it's just adrenaline, or, I was working 10, 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. We've got young kids, and I didn't think anything of it. And unfortunately, over time, the twitching didn't stop, and my arm started to feel slightly weaker. And it prompted me to then see the doctor to sort of get some tests done to see what was the matter, really.
Okay. And at the time, did you think, it should be alright, just a bit of spasm? That's what I
was hoping.
To be a bit of a laddie lad and think, rub it off.
I just cracked on and tried to put it in the back of my mind. If it wasn't for my nan having motor neuron disease, it probably wouldn't have brought it to the forefront of my mind. But there was something in that thought and thinking, actually, I might just go and see the doctor and just see what's going on. And they gave me a blood test to test for, I can never remember the name of it, but I think it's to test how much protein you've got in your bloodstream, and it's where if your muscles are breaking down, they get released into your bloodstream, and it's a telltale sign you have some sort of muscle atrophy or wasting.
Okay.
Which then prompted her to refer me to a neurologist, and I saw one of 3 neurologists. First of all, it was a general neurologist, and he proceeded to sort of hear my sort of backstory and symptoms, and did some physical examinations, sort of grabbed my arms and told me to resist him and squeezed his hand, and then said, look, let's do an MRI scan, let's do an EMG test. An EMG test is where they stick these like electrical pads all over your body and send electrical currents through it to sort of make them spasm. and then they also stick like a needle that's got like a microphone on the end of it.
Oh, I wouldn't like that.
It's horrible. I remember when I had it done, they got me to, they stuck it in my left hand, and they made me, like, I can't do it anymore, but they made me squeeze my fingers, my index finger and thumb together to tense that muscle, and he then stuck the needle in it to listen to it, and it was so painful.
God, this makes me...
But after I had the tests done, I had to wait for the results, and I went back to the same general neurologist to say, to see him, and he said the MRI scan come back fine, and the EMG test has come back inconclusive, and then boom, lockdown happened the day after. Yeah, old Boris Johnson was on the TV saying we need to go, we need to stay at home.
Stay home.
Don't go out, go out. And that was it. Didn't have any more communication with the neurologist for probably a good 6 months. And by that point, on the appointment, he was saying, look, come back in 3 months. We'll see if you've progressed any more, and we'll go from there. And it took around about 6 months for me to contact him again to say, look, the same thing's happening to my right arm. And by that point, I'd changed from being a car salesman or a sales manager at the time to a barber. I managed to train and get qualification in barbering.
But like you said, you always wanted to do barbering.
I always wanted to do it, and it. Do you know what? It was something in me going, if it is what I've got, I need to do it now. But I've got this opportunity to do it. I was made redundant. I didn't want to go back into sales. I always wanted to be a barber, so let's do it. And I managed to do, like, I think it was a year course, part-time course. And I managed to get it done in 6 months and get a job in a local barber shop chain called Grade 92. Amazing place. And ended up cutting the hair for some of the football players in Bournemouth.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a surreal experience, and I encourage anyone listening or watching, if you ever think to yourself, I wish I could do that, or don't let a terminal illness make you do it.
Yeah.
And at that point, I hadn't been diagnosed. I was still waiting for the sort of the diagnosis, I suppose. And after I'd seen the general neurologist sort of for the second time, he sort of said, oh, look, you need to go have another EMG test. And unfortunately, that come back with sort of more information for them to go, look, it's not this, it's not that, we don't think it's this. It is pointing to, unfortunately, motor neuron disease. And I remember the letter coming through. He said they wanted to see me on Christmas Eve of 2020, and I was like, I am not going. I am not going. Like, whenever a doctor sends you a letter, it's not going to be good news.
No.
So I was like, I'm not going in. I'll rearrange the appointment. I think it was for the January. And I remember going in there, and we were still sort of semi-lockdown. Like, we had to wear masks.
Yeah, it was quite still like you wear masks.
I couldn't take my wife, who was heavily pregnant at the time. And I remember walking through the hospital, seeing him, and he had his mask on. There was a nurse next to him with a mask on, and he was like, I cut to the chase, I think you got motor neuron disease. And I just sort of, like, the world sort of caved in me, and I remember seeing him like I'm watching you now, but you're getting further away from me. It was like really weird. And I can laugh about it now because it's been 5 years really, and I sort of said to him, could it be anything else? And I remember him saying, I'm that confident that it's MND. If I'm wrong, I'll quit my job. I was like, brilliant. Off I went. So that was it. I said, look, are you diagnosing me? Like, is this it? Like, there's nothing else that can be done? And he was like, no. He goes, I'm going to refer you to an MND specialist. So I'm like, I'm stuck in limbo. Like, I'm going, do I have it or don't I have it?
So he wasn't sort of actually quite sure. He even said
he was confident to say it, but wasn't confident enough to say, I'm going to diagnose you. Whether there was a meaning behind it, I'll never know. But he then referred me to my now neurologist doctor, who I'm under the care of.
Yeah.
And he wanted to refer me to him to get a second opinion, I suppose. But there was a 12-month lead time. This was like the January of 2021, and there was a lead time of sort of December that year, and I was like, oh my
not
God,
a chance.
I'm not waiting that long. And I remember the whole time I was emailing and hounding and calling every day to his secretary until I got an appointment. And I want to say it was maybe the April time, so I still had to wait a good 3-4 months to see him. And he looked at me and was like, saw my notes, did some examinations, said, oh yeah, I remember your nan. And he knew my nan because my nan was local.
Oh, bless him.
And I was like, okay. And he said, yeah, I think the first neurologist is right. You've got MND, but I'm still not going to diagnose you. He said, I'll recommend seeing a professor of neurology in Oxford University Hospital, not too far from you.
Yeah.
So I went to the John Radcliffe Hospital.
That's it, yeah, John Radcliffe.
So
yeah.
I took the opportunity to go and see him. I was like, third time's a charm. They too might have got it wrong. You never know. So I went to see this professor, and I felt like I was in and out in like 20 minutes. And I remember him sort of going, oh, I remember your nan too. And he saw my nan as well. And my wife was ready to pop. She had my little girl ready to be born. And he sort of looked at both of us and was like, yeah, unfortunately you have motor neuron disease. And he said, I'm going to officially diagnose you as of today. And I sort of looked at my wife. She burst into tears. And I just sort of was more relieved, if I can be honest, of knowing what I was going through, had a sort of a definitive answer. Because for 2 years almost I was in limbo of going, what is it? It was the days before ChatGPT, so I was Googling everything, reading, taking snippets from forums and things like that. Could I have this? Could I have that? And I remember the day, and sort of we walked out of the hospital thinking, well, at least we've got the answer to know what I've got. And I think the first person I rung was my boss at the time, one of the managers of the barber shop. Said, oh, just to let you know, I've got this. And they were like, oh no, what is it? So I had to sort of explain to them what it was. And they were amazing. They sort of looked after me. Like, out of all the jobs I've had, being a self-employed barber was the best job I've ever had. And they looked after me the best I've ever been looked after
positive business ethics, isn't it?
Yeah. I was just a number in a lot of jobs that I've had, and in this job I felt as part of the furniture, and they sort of looked after me, and I worked until the sort of bitter end where I was holding the clippers in my hand, and I ended up having to use both hands. And I remember one day I was I can't show you, but I remember one day I was on my own locking up the shop, and I had one customer in, and I was trying to do a skin fade, and I ended up not being able to hold the clipper in but one hand, so I had it gripped with two, and to try and get the height to flick the clipper up to try and blend it, I was going on tiptoes to try and do it. Really? And I was like, I think I need to sort of hang my clippers up, and it was a long-ish process of working all day to then doing half days to then doing a couple of hours, 5 days a week, rather than full 3 or 4 days full time. And I remember crying on the way home. I was still able to sort of just about cycle home, and I remember it was raining, and I was like, I'll just have a little cry on the way home, because I thought I'm never going to be able to do this again.
Of course.
And maybe I will one day, but it's opened up avenues and opportunities to find a new purpose in life, and then the journey of sharing my life online happened, really.
So just going back a bit, when you've had the first diagnosis, I mean, it's quite a lot just to sit and take it in. Like,
I do waffle a little bit.
No, not at all like that. But it's just, it's a lot for even including myself and also listeners and viewers, just to hear you say that. It makes you choke up just thinking about it, because it's a lot you've processed there.
Yeah.
So when you had that first real diagnosis, because I was almost the same. You sort of doesn't really sink in, does it? I suppose.
No, and I suppose the situation I find myself in the way that my MND is, and hopefully will carry on progressing, is I remember the professor said, look, if it is quite a slow progressing version of MND, and it normally 9 times out of 10 will predominantly stay slow for the foreseeable. And I had to ask him the question, and say, look, what am I looking at? Life expectancy. And I remember him saying, look, I would say confidently 10 years, if not decades. And that's not a lot. I mean, I'm halfway through that time frame now, and I feel fortunate, if you can call it fortunate, to be in the position I am in, because I know a lot of people with MND have lost their life very, very quickly, including my nan. And I think it's then put me in a position where, being a dad and a husband, with it being slowly progressing, I can slowly adapt to it as time goes on. So when I'm telling this story of 5 years ago, it's second nature to me, because I've said it a few times.
It does become a second nature.
It does, yeah. And it doesn't really affect me anymore, because I remember a friend of mine that's got MND himself. I think he's in his 10th year, and I remember him saying to me, he said, the quicker you can come to terms with the fact that you've got MND, the quicker or the easier it will become. And it's true.
Acceptance.
Accepting the fact that I have this disease that at the moment has no treatment, or little to no treatment, and no cure. There's not a lot I can do about it. And it sounds really flippant, but there's nothing I can do about it. Do I whinge about it? Sometimes. Do I try and live life the best I can now? Why not? There's no reason I shouldn't do now.
I mean, we on the stage, I don't know if you've ever heard it, people describing having an accident or injury as 7 stages of grief.
Yeah.
So, I'm very fortunate, but again, I've been in positions in hospital when I've been there and I'm thinking, this is shit, and further down, I'm 16, 17, 18, and you think, what, my life, what's the point? Especially when I had the sort of cardiovascular disease on my hip, which was they couldn't do anything about for about 2 years. I
suppose that's hard that'd be harder to process, I suppose, being a teenager.
Yeah, it definitely was. The hardest thing again, sport. Couldn't do any of that, and I was getting progressively worse because of my hips. So I was able to do stuff, and then we're in the space. I wouldn't obviously say the same sort of thing with MND, but it was the space of me being able to walk fully to being basically wheelchair, crutch bound in space for about 2 months.
Wow.
So it's acceptance is a huge part of it.
I think
you can't do anything about it,
and not a lot of people will accept it, and that's fair enough.
Yeah,
everyone's different, and everyone is different with this disease as well. You could have. I set up a local sort of support group meeting within my local MNDA branch, and we have maybe between sometimes 5 up to 10 people with MND that come along, and it's amazing. It's a great 2 hours a month that we all come and just sort of talk and vent and joke and drink, or mainly through a straw, drink a cup of coffee, feed each other biscuits for those that can use their arms, and it's a nice place to be. But you could have those 10 people in that same room, and every single one of us will have a different story, a different way that they're accepting it, and a different progression. It's just mad. It's just there's not one size fits all, and there's
not such thing as it being the same throughout the whole time.
No,
as in, I've gone on this whole podcast journey and whole presenting journey, and then sort of fundraising. Oh, this is brilliant, but behind the scenes, it can be days where you're just like, this is just, it's shit to live with. Yeah. Like having injury like that it's not nice to cope with at all.
I bet.
So a bit like me, you found your way of coping with it, really, in a way of sort of supporting others through online platforms.
I suppose so. Yeah. What prompted me to start was, I found myself twiddling my thumbs, getting in my wife's way and getting under her feet, and she's an amazing mum to my now 3 kids, and she's supportive for me, and she works at home as well. So I found myself thinking, I must be able to do something with my time. I don't want to be watching TV all day. And I remember there was, in America, they've got ALS Awareness Month, which is normally in May.
Okay.
And not to confuse things by bringing in another terminology, ALS is a term or a type of motor neuron disease.
Okay.
England, we umbrella it under MND, motor neuron disease. Some other countries specify the type, which is ALS, and you've also got another few different types as well. ALS is the most common type, but anyway, in America they've got ALS, and they only see it as that, and they've got ALS Awareness Month. And I remember seeing a a girl with ALS start a video letting people ask her any questions about the disease, and I basically did the same, and it carried on from there. I sort of said, ask me anything, and I answered each question for the whole month of the whole month of June, sorry, because our MND Awareness Day is on the 21st of June, and it went from there, and I really enjoyed doing it. It took a while to get used to talking to a camera. In the middle of I was sat in the garden and started talking to the camera, and my kids are like,
back to another video.
I know, yeah. My kids are like, Daddy, what are you doing? And now my eldest wants to be a YouTuber, and like it's just. And I've only really, after sort of nearly 4 years now, I've done it, because I had a bit of a year sort of off before I started trying it, and it's only really sort of become natural. It's taken a while.
For me, it started through the fundraising. I just go, oh, welcome today. We did 30 days and we were 54 miles.
Yeah.
In 30 days on crutches.
Amazing.
And raised about, I don't know, a ridiculous amount of money, but it was just like day 1, day 2, day 3, 4. And then suddenly, in the space of, I don't know if you've had the same, the press just all got involved in the space of about 15 to 20 days. Right. And it was like this huge thing of, talking about your mental health and that sort of stuff. Yeah. And then eventually it went that. And then it was, after the challenge, it went back to sort of, well, you're stuck in this thing, you're, back with the disease that's going to effectively stop you from walking. So I don't know how you feel about that in terms of, obviously it's really big of a pickup doing the social media stuff and doing that sort of videos, but then back to reality when
it's opened doors and opportunities that I've never would have dreamt of being able to do if I didn't do it, and I thrive on that. I think the salesman in me is constantly chasing a bigger number on Instagram or whatever and things like that, but the main thing is, as long as I'm still enjoying it, I'll carry on doing it, and if it helps just one person understand what motor neuron disease is, then it's made me happy knowing that I've done that. Is it getting harder? Yes. Hence why I've got these glasses on, because it makes things a little bit easier for me to create videos and things like that. But it's given me a purpose in life, and I think if I didn't do it, I wouldn't have met the people I've met.
Yeah.
And be encouraged to carry on doing it by seeing the positive comments and things like that, because it's so easy to go down this dark hole of.
It's very easy.
And I went through that really at the beginning stages of my diagnosis. I think everyone will go through it. They go with denial first.
No, then
and I used alcohol as a coping mechanism. I was always a fairly sort of big-ish drinker. Mainly at the weekends, but that then changed into weekdays and 12 o'clock somewhere and in excess. And I've used 2026 as a year to sort of change some sort of slightly naughty habits to see if it helps, and it has made a big difference, especially the lack of alcohol. But the social media thing, it fluctuates, it goes up and down, and I use it as and when I feel the need to use it, and I'm really enjoying it at the moment.
And these glasses are a brilliant bit of kit, because
they are awesome.
They're Meta glasses.
Yeah,
you can have these free camera setups here with those mics, but you probably get more attention and more like sort of software and those things.
It's almost like a Bluetooth headset, camera, and microphone built in on your face. It's basically an iPhone on your face, basically. Or other brands available, and
don't sue.
I found myself not being able to hold a camera up and setting up a camera to then click record, and I saw these glasses, and they seamlessly integrate into social media, and I'm able to do a lot of things hands-free, and it just makes life a lot easier. It gives people a perspective that I've never shown before, which is what I see. And I think that's quite a powerful tool to have, and it resonates with a lot of people, thinking they can see themselves. Like the other day I was trying to open a package and I couldn't, and a lot of people resonate with it,
really
going, oh my God,
yeah.
like how hard is that for you to open?
Like, it really resonates. I think me watching it when I only first came across you social media, so going back to the element of we'd never be sat here, I don't think, unless
exactly,
you had this. But like for me, it was just like it's a hard watch, some of your videos, because it brings reality on. We can sit here and talk about MND and you know what it does and stuff, but actually seeing you wearing these glasses and showcasing people what it's actually like to live with it, it's different.
It's made the process of me sharing my journey easier, but I think it has expanded the people that will resonate with it even more, because I can do what everyone else is doing and stand in front of a camera and talk to them and tell them things, which I still do.
Yeah.
But I think with seeing what I see is more powerful and can give more of an impact, I think, which fundamentally might help people donate to charities such as the MNDA, and then it helps go towards research for it's all a snowball effect, hopefully.
Yeah. James, we've just interrupted ourselves, but a quick word from our sponsor. Have you ever heard of Down the Farm Media?
No, I haven't, no.
Oh, right. So Down the Farm Media offers visual audio services, editing, recording and marketing for a whole range of subjects. Again, marketing, social media, or even a wedding or a party. They are your one-stop service for audio and visual editing. They even sponsor this podcast and do a bit of it for as well. So get in contact at Down the Farm Media on all social media platforms or their website. Relationships is one thing that I personally have always struggled with my injury. Having to sort of open up to people, but also at the same time actually having a physical relationship or having a partner for life.
Yeah.
Obviously, when I had my injury, I was 15 when it started progressing quite badly. So I've never had a long time. I'm 21 now. Never had a long-term relationship. To be honest with you, never had a partner, and I think the element to that probably is because of the fact that I've got my physical injuries, so I feel like I don't want to have to be a burden on people, but also the mental aspects of going through physical trauma and stuff. OCD, I had PTSD at one point, I had depression, so it's not wanting to put it on everyone else.
Sure.
But it's also the family element of people looking after you, and I think only now, a couple of years down the line, I realise how bad it was for them at the time.
Yeah.
So how do you, if you don't mind speaking about it, how do you, as a family, sort of cope with it? Is it, obviously it must be very, very hard to think that you've got 3 young kids and that sort of thing.
Yeah, the burden factor of it is the toughest for me to process. Knowing that at the moment I am as independent as I can be. My wife has to help me now get dressed and undress. I'm struggling to eat myself, and there's certain things that are coming into play where I haven't had to worry about it for the last so many years. And the burden of me putting on to my kids and wife is the hardest sort of pill to swallow, I think. But we are a very strong, close family, and my kids are absolutely amazing. They've grown up really with me, them knowing that Daddy has bad arms. It's a weird, I can't explain it. I'll give you an example. I come down in the morning and my dressing gown is on the bathroom door that's now downstairs. We've had our house renovated to accommodate my MND, and I put it on the bathroom door because I'm able to still fling my right arm into the one arm and then get the hood onto my head and then walk with it on one shoulder, and I'll just look at one of my kids and they'll automatically, while watching their iPad with their headphones on, just sort of carry on watching their iPad and just sort of move my other arm into my other sleeve, and then my dressing gown's done. So they've slowly adapted as I have, which that's going back to feeling fortunate that I haven't suddenly woken up and gone, Daddy's normal, nothing wrong with him, to Daddy's now in a wheelchair with a ventilator and a feeding tube and things like that, where that does happen with people with MND. And I think with the slow progressing nature of my MND, I'm able to slowly adapt and show them, sort of drip feed the progression, and it becomes natural for them. But it doesn't stop the feeling of feeling like a burden on them, and it will become a point. And I sometimes see it in my wife where she's just got 101 things going around in her head, going, I need to do this, I've got a food shop to do, I need to go out, I want to go to the gym. And there's me standing there half naked going, can you pull my boxers up for me? You know, and it's like, it's a sad situation to find myself in, having to rely on other people, but the people like my wife and my kids, they just naturally just do it and get on with it.
Oh, bless them.
And it's really nice feeling to know that I've got a good support network around me, not just from my wife and kids, but with my parents, with my wife's parents even more so, and even for my friends. You know, I did a video the other day of him feeding me a chip in the pub because I couldn't feed myself, and he was going, "Here comes the train." He was like, seducing me with a chip, and he just sort of laugh about it.
You've got to have those moments, haven't you?
You do, and
it can't all be emotional and sad, and you can't get through it if you act like that.
I think if you do, I think if I can be blunt, I'd be dead by now. If I'd be really honest, if I was doom and gloom and negative, and never say never, I might go down that rabbit hole one day, but I'm open-minded to experiencing it if and when I do. But I think if I can sustain from getting to that point for as long as I can, because I've seen it so many times, people are gone. I use the analogy, it sounds a bit morbid to say, but when your grandparents die, when one of them goes, it's not long that the other one doesn't go afterwards, because you sort of, I don't know what it is, and it's a bit like that, I think, in my mind. If I let it eat at me and chip away at me more and more and more and become depressive about it, I think it'll be worse, I think.
Do you see it as an exterior thing in your body? So when you think about your MND,
sometimes, yeah.
Is it? I mean, I would feel really odd to describe it, but do you feel like it's part of your body, or do you feel like it's something's attacking you?
It is part of me now, but at the early stages it was this thing that I couldn't understand why, but now I understand the why, and I've got no reason to dwell on the fact it is now part of me. There's a saying that there's a famous football player called Marcus Stewart. I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
No, I'm more a rugby man, if I'm totally honest
with you. That's fine, yeah. He said in an interview once, which I've sort of got in the back of my mind, is, if I say it right, I don't live with MND, MND lives with me. And it sort of resonates with me sometimes when I feel like it's eating and chipping away at me. If I feel a bit down, I go, no, I'm not living with it. Although I say it a few times, it's living with me.
Yeah.
And it's just coming along for the ride. And one day I'm going to be able to pick up a pint and drink from it. The next day I might not be able to do it. But we work around it, and I'll use a straw instead.
Positive outlook is the way forward, I think.
In my situation, yeah. Other people
different.
Everyone's different, yeah.
And I think, is that the way, I mean, it's tough to talk about, I suppose, and I don't know if you mind talking about it as well, is that it's going to get progressively worse for you.
It has.
You said your neck's starting to go.
Yeah, like my head feels like it constantly wants to sit like that. And the head is the heaviest part of your body.
Yeah.
So it's just, my neck and my shoulder muscles, and it is getting harder. And it does get frustrating when I have to wait for things. I suppose going back to the beginning of our conversation, what type of person am I like? I'm the most impatient person you will ever meet, and it's even more frustrating to see one of my boys like it as well. And if I want to get something done, I want to get it done now, and because I can't physically do myself, I've got to wait for someone else, like my wife, to help me, who is the complete opposite. She'll leave something for weeks before she gets it done. It just frustrates me knowing that I wish I could do it, and I don't want to then frustrate my wife or people around me to get things done because I want them to get done. So it's frustrating in certain situations, but I try not to let it get to me, and I'm learning, I suppose, to adapt my personality to fit this situation and environment that I'm now in.
You could have a lot of mental strength, I think.
Yeah, I think so,
I've worked with and have a lot of close friends who are or have been through a serious injury or are living with some kind of prognosis, such as I've got mates who are quadriplegics who have broken their neck, and they'd be very similar to yourself, very limited sort of usage of limbs and that sort of thing. And we do stuff for awareness and that sort of thing, but at the same time you can't be, it's almost like you never meet your heroes, that sort of thing. I don't know if you've ever heard of this bloke called Ed Jackson at all. So Ed's, I've met him a couple of times. He almost was a really big inspiration for me, and I first met first heard of him through another Ed, who was our first ever guest on this podcast.
Yeah.
Anyway, long story short, he dived into the wrong end of the swimming pool when he was, I think in his 20s or something like that. Dived in, was a Premier League rugby player, played really high up, and broke his neck while diving into the wrong end into the swimming pool. Resuscitated a couple of times in the back of the ambulance, was told he was never going to walk again.
Yeah.
Was in ICU for a long time. You know, that sort of thing of, you know, you've broken your neck, your life's over. And just through family and friends, a bit like we've been talking about, just didn't want to give up at all.
Yeah.
And kept thinking, right, I just need to do this for my family, that sort of thing. He's got a few books out, film. But one day his toe suddenly twitched. And he worked on those nerve sort of endings.
Yeah.
And now he's climbing mountains.
That's unreal.
Across,
yeah, I'll have to look him up. That sounds amazing.
Shout out to Ed if you're watching.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a really good guy. He does a lot now. He's quite famous. He does quite a lot of the Paralympics.
I feel like I should know him.
Does a lot of Paralympics and that sort of thing. But again, that's a great example of resilience and sort of outer mindset, I think.
Yeah.
You know, he was told his body was never going to even function again from the neck down, and yet now he's, again, I know he's not fully recovered. He's got other issues and stuff like that, which is because he's snapped his stomach. But, you know, it's that, like you're saying, it's that sort of idea of, if I think of it out of mind, I can achieve it, and I can still do the best I can.
Yeah, and I think
prolong it.
It's important to sort of mention, I suppose, that, like, I know that I couldn't go and swim the channel, right?
Yeah.
And if I kept telling myself that I could do it, I'm going to frustrate myself in knowing that I can't do it. But if I can find a way around it and do it with some aids, adapting. I mean, I try and live by the sort of term of adapt and thrive. Is this term that I try and sort of live by. But if I can't do it, I won't keep trying, because it will just kick me down each time I can't do it. I focus on the things I can do, not the things that I can't. And as this condition progresses, I just find other ways that I can work around it, really.
Yeah. Do you care, sort of as a big final question, do you care about legacy? It's in terms of, do you care that if you have the thought you might not be around forever for your children or if your wife?
I care more about memories, and the legacy, I suppose, will follow with those memories, I think. And you know, I'm using social media as a tool to build memories, not only for me but for other people that want to know a bit more about motor neuron disease, but also other things, like my kids might want to look back at videos that I've done to know what it was actually like, because one day, you know, if I'm not around, they might not remember what I was like in terms of what motor neuron disease has done to me, and how it's progressed, and what I was like before I couldn't use my arms and before I couldn't walk, and, you know, throwing my kids in the air like dads do and things like that. And it's nice to them to look back on, as well as other people. And I've got videos and things like that we keep private for them to do that. But I think it's good to publicly share things that can help others as well. And I suppose that in itself could be classed as a legacy, maybe. I don't know.
Well, listen, mate, you've just taken everything in your stride in a way. And like we said, we talked about through the whole episode of, it's never going to be right, it's never going to be an awesome time the whole time,
no.
But that way. But you have really showcased true strength to me, I think. We talked this whole thing about masculinity as well in the sector of recovery, and I've heard about this of true masculinity is actually showing up for your family and your friends. So well done for you, mate. Absolutely smashing it.
Appreciate it.
One final thing before we end, and I really want to ask you this because it's a really big question that we always ask a lot of guests. 3 bits of advice that you give to somebody at all who is starting out in anything or is possibly looking at following a career ambition, anything from anything. Only one bit of advice.
Do something that you enjoy. It sounds corny. If you do something you enjoy, it will never feel like work. Find what you want to do and do it. Don't let a terminal illness stop you or encourage you to do it. If you're thinking to yourself, I've got work Monday, I really can't be bothered, I hate my job, just quit and do it. Take the leap. And it's easy for me to say that, but just do it. I suppose focus on the things that you can do, not what you can't, and enjoy life, because it is very short.
Absolutely.
And it can be made shorter by something I think you will have. So just live life the best you can.
Well, James, thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing, and hopefully we wish you all the best from the podcast for your whole future.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
James, thank you for opening up. Thank you for sharing with us all those amazing things. I just want to thank you personally for coming on the podcast and opening up. Wishing you the best of luck for your amazing journey ahead in terms of inspiring so many people. What you're doing is just truly incredible. I know you've been excited to watch this. So personal thank you, first of all, to all of you, that includes your family, for allowing us to create the episode and do all of that. So thank you, James. All the best, mate. I really mean it. And hopefully we'll catch up soon. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to this episode on Down the Farm podcast. We learned so much, I think, what I personally definitely did, I hope you did, in that episode, in terms of resilience, outlook, but mostly the biggest takeaway, adaptation. Really, things that can knock you in life, they're going to knock you in the balls, and sort of you're going to think, what the hell, how am I going to manage with this? But adaptation is really one way you can get across that and really, I don't know, I think possibly just have a different outlook, because sometimes can just help you get through things, but also maybe that can be physical adaptation as well. So that's my main takeaway point, I think, from this episode. Please follow us on social media at Down the Farm Podcast. Follow us on the stream platform you're listening on, whether that's YouTube or Spotify, Apple, whatever you're going to be listening, to make sure you support the podcast. And of course, today's sponsor, Down on the Farm Media, which offers visual and audio editing and creation and producing services for the Midlands and beyond. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Hopefully this episode was insightful for you, and we've got plenty more guests lined up for the rest of Series 4. As ever, from us to you on Down the Farm Podcast, don't be afraid to go down the pub and give your fellow mates a hug. Stay safe, guys, and we'll see you in the next episode.